As stated, up underneath this panel is where the batteries are, and we'll start disassembling this by removing this panel, just simply by these two screws here. You could, if you wanted, remove this whole battery insert. It does offer screws right here where you could do that, which is kind of cool. So if one piece or the other became damaged, really easy to replace. Now, I've had this radio for about 7-8 months. Although it's not my daily driver, I have listened to it numerous times. And these batteries, just cheap batteries, they're batteries that actually came with the radio. The seller put them in there, and I didn't have any reason to change them, left them in there. And as stated, I have used this radio numerous times, and there's actually a few times that I've left it on overnight, accidentally. Of course, the volume down, but it was on just the same. And I've listened to it several times, about 12 hours a run. And I'm really impressed with the radio. It's really, really easy on batteries. These these batteries are still going, as you heard in our test. You're probably asking yourself, Jack, what does the battery compartment really look like? Here's the answer to your question. Look how nice and clean that is. Even the paper labeling is still nice and intact. Couldn't ask for a better, cleaner compartment than that. Bring your attention here to the strain relief for the battery. And not only do we have this strain relief here, but we have one that I might not be able to show you here. There we go. So that is really cool. The next steps into breaking into this radio, I believe, are going to be done by these 3 P2 size screws on the side.
My transistor radio comes from far away. When it's night over here, over there, it's a breaking day. And I remember all the good times we had walking in the sand with the beautiful girl that I met, made in Japan. And the beauty of her face was beyond my wildest dreams, like cherry blossom blooming in the mountain in the earth.
Now earlier I was talking about the materials used on this radio, and I stated all metal. Well, I fibbed to you. Sides here are plastic. So it looks like all we got to do is just bend this out just a little bit, pull up, and remove the handle assembly. And inside here you can see we have a couple of brass nuts on either side, which would tighten that up if we needed to tighten that up. So that is kind of cool. So it looks like this half of the radio is going to pop up. That's kind of interesting how they're set up for that. And you know they're set up for, realistically set up for speakers, because we do have mounting holes. The foam is still intact, but a little collapsed. So just a quick brief look at it. It does appear that I will be able to service it. I believe I'm going to have to take the knobs off. The dial string is up here at the top, and it appears that that is on its own subframe. Little closer look. Really nice and clean. Sitting here looking at the radio off camera, and I noticed it appears that the ferrite bar is encased in plastic. Okay, I went ahead and unsoldered the battery box. Make it easier to move around and navigate without that flopping around. I want to bring your attention to that push button switch. As you can see right there, it is kind of icky. So part of this is we're going to clean that up, relubricate it, and I'm thinking that majority of my problem is going to be caused by this alone, and maybe not necessarily by the capacitors. Outside of pulling the knobs off in order to pull the face off, I need to remove this screw and that screw right there. Now, in order to do that, your typical screwdriver is not the right angle. It's going to get in there and strip that screw out. So a special screwdriver is required, and you need something like that. I did not have one of these in my collection, so I had to run down and pick this set up. For this set, I only paid $5 down at my local auto parts store. A goober I am. Pulled the knobs off, started pulling off the face plate through those screws that I showed you. And I got two of the screws out, and then we had another one out at the bottom, and I thought, man, that's a really, really tight fit. Proper tools I apparently don't have to do it the way it should. So I started looking at the frame again, and well, like a beacon in the night, I come across these brass screws that magically removed the other side. So I did not have to remove the faceplate like I thought, but that's okay. If I could still go about it, I will. That way I can clean that switch, the switch properly without getting residue on the face, and it would also give me a chance to wipe any 50-year-old dust off of the back of the panel. And this is what it looks like on the other side. Nice big fat speaker, and then the circuit board. And here's a tighter shot of the circuit board itself. I think relatively easy to access majority of the parts that I need. So again, as long as I have all values in-house, all the electrolytics will be changed out. I need to remove this back panel, make it a lot easier to work with, especially when I'm going to be flipping and flopping the case around for removing and installing new components. After looking at it off camera, instead of unsoldering a bunch of wiring, I'm just going to take a spanner wrench and remove this plug. Now once I remove it, yes, I'm still going to have to do some more unsoldering, but that's just going to be at the speaker terminals. It'll be somewhat easier. So in case those who don't know what a spanner wrench is, it's one of these things that are just extremely too big for your screen. There we go. It's one of these little doodads. This particular model, you got points on this edge and then flat, kind of like flathead screwdrivers on this edge. Next thing is to start pulling capacitors and rip and tear, I guess is what we're going to do, rip and tear. In the process of changing out the capacitors, I came across some of these capacitors here. They're plastic bodied capacitors, and they got the value on top of the head. And the negative side is marked with that dot. You can see this radio has several has a lot more of those styles than your typical canister type electrolytic capacitors. These are the filtering capacitors. Pull 2 of those out. I've only replaced 3 capacitors so far, but I thought I would point that out and show you that. These plastic body capacitors. Kind of cool. And just with those 3 capacitors changed, I have to tell you, this thing already sounds so much better. I haven't cleaned the switches or anything.
Costs are so high. I'm still fighting a $21,000 bill. Yeah. That, you know, wouldn't ruin me, but it would have years ago.
One of the things that I was having an issue with this radio, and I'm not sure if I declared it when I was telling you the problems I was having with it, is that all the frequencies always sound off frequency. I contributed that to the electrolytics, of course, being dry or out of tolerant. And so far, just with those 3 replaced, it really has improved the sound quality. So now, onward and awkward, replacing the rest of those. Well, I'm making progress, slowly but surely. I only have just these 3 capacitors to replace, and then I'm done. The capacitors that I'm pulling out were in there mechanically, meaning the legs were passed through the board and then they were bent over, not softly, but a nice hard 90-degree bend, which is good considering this is supposed to be a mobile radio, and even though the parts are right side up, that'll also help fight with vibration or any chance of the solder to break free. Hopefully it then would make contact. Here's a close-up shot of the board itself. Now I want to bring to your attention, really can't see it too good, I don't think, but I think good enough. Look at the resistors just as soon as I could find them. You notice the coloring of the resistors? That's right, they're blue. All low tolerance. This radio was built very well with the mechanical joint and as well as the parts they put in here. Capacitors, as you see, are Rubicon. These ones, I'm not sure who made them. No name on those. But I would like to think that they use good quality capacitors and parts all the way through. The paint on the dial is starting to flake off. So I'll need to go down and get some fingernail polish and repaint it. I stated earlier that the radio sounded off frequency. That is really cleared up.
So the sheetrock that is damaged was out, the kitchen cabinets are out, the bathroom cabinets are out, the flooring is gone. Yeah. It's gone, air cleaners are inside, and now we're at the point now where we're going to put the home back together. Okay. And get them back into their home as quickly as possible, but as efficiently as possible.
That's off frequency.
Is that a long, involved process, the whole mitigation thing?
No, it's
there we
probably a couple of weeks. I mean, that to me is not a long time. It's putting the home back together. It's probably going to take about a 4-month process to get the home back. That's how much damage was done to this home. Well, talk about
the radio is not playing through its internal speaker, it's playing through my benchtop speaker, and it is a vintage, realistic shelf speaker. Well, the game plan is shot to replace those last 3 remaining capacitors. We have the blue one here. Whoops, I lied. We have the blue one here. And then we have the 2 orange ones up here. So there's no way of spinning this wheel to access it. So we'll just cancel that plan and move forward and call it done.